Hello everyone, this is just a quick video covering 5 quick tips that can help you in your fantasy football draft. So tip number 1 is know your league rules, and this is very important because every league is different and you want to customize your strategy based on those league rules. So you can see in my league we're trying something a bit different this year. We're doing 2 quarterbacks instead of 1 quarterback slot, and we're also adding this injured reserve slot. Now, how this can help dictate your strategy is I know I have this extra injured reserve slot, so I want to fill it with a guy who's already on injured reserve since I'm drafting later today. So looking at these players, we can see there's a couple guys like AJ Green, N'Keal Harry, Lamar Miller, Andrew Luck. So we know like Lamar Miller, Andrew Luck, they're not coming back, but N'Keal Harry, he's actually will come back at some point in the season. So it might be good just to take him as a late round pick, so you can fill out your IR slot and not leave it empty. All right, so next tip is to do mock drafts. So ESPN or Yahoo or whatever site you use, it'll probably have like this mock draft lobby where you can join one. But the problem I found is that a lot of these leagues aren't really similar to um, my league. So this year we're doing 8-team auction. And if you just look at these, most of these aren't 8-team auctions, so it might be hard to just find one where you can actually do a mock draft. So one tool I'd recommend is this Football Guys Draft Dominator. They released it for free this year, but it essentially lets you just import your league. It'll automatically read all your settings, and then it'll allow you to do mock drafts, kind of simulating either draft or auction. So it's a pretty cool tool, and I'd recommend it if you really want to, just draft something that's similar to what your real draft is going to be like. So moving on, next tip is drafting in buckets. So this is my overall rankings, and you can see I highlighted some players in green. These are like the players I try to target. So I think the idea of drafting in buckets is kind of just taking a bunch of players on the same team. It's similar to the idea of stacking in daily fantasy, where if you think one team's going to be really good this year, their offense is going to score a lot of points. Well, you want a lot of players on that team. So this year, I think the Chiefs will continue to be really good on offense, especially considering how bad their defense is. So I think if you can get like Pat Mahomes plus the pass catchers like Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelce, along with some of their running backs like Darwin Thompson, the rookie, seems to be doing really well and emerging. I think that's sort of the overall strategy I'd want to take this year in terms of bucketing. But if you look at previous years, like Peyton Manning's Broncos, if you just wanted as many Broncos as you could that year, or that year where Brady had 50 touchdowns with Randy Moss, it's like you just want as many pieces of the good offense as you can. So this year, I think the Chiefs are going to be one of those teams, and I could also see the Browns breaking out, just with Baker being really good, entering his second year, and them adding pieces like Odell Beckham and their other young weapons like Nick Chubb getting a lot better. So I can definitely see the Browns breaking out as well. So next tip is using rankings. So oftentimes, you'll see people share their personal rankings, and it can be helpful, but what's really helpful is a site that sort of aggregates all of these expert rankings together. So I like to use Fantasy Pros, where you can see, for example, running backs, choose what type of scoring your league uses, and then you can see for each of these players, where do they rank in terms of the best ranking and the worst ranking. So I think knowing this range really helps you if you want to target certain types of players. For example, if you just want to target upside, you might want to just sort by the best ranking and see who are some experts think will really break out, or guys with sort of a wide range like Zeke Elliott, 1 to 31. That's kind of reflective of his contract risk status, while guys like Christian McCaffrey, Alvin Kamara are a lot safer with the 1 to 6 range. So depending on your sort of overall draft strategy, if you want to avoid risk or you want to, sort of take that riskier option, that's really up to you. But seeing what everyone else is saying can really help you, determine if you're relatively higher on a player than, the rest of the field. Um, so just to give you an example of how using these rankings can be helpful, if you look at my personal rankings, for example, and look at, say, Tyreek Hill, I have him ranked as the number 1 wide receiver. And looking at Tyreek Hill here, he's the number 7 wide receiver, and the range is between 2 to 9, which means my ranking is higher than even the most optimistic experts, which means there's a pretty good chance, you'll actually land that player in a draft you're doing. Another example would be, say, Josh Gordon. I think he's going to actually stay on the field this year and live up to his potential. Whether he does or not, who knows, but I do like the upside there. So I could see him being as good as like the wide receiver 9, which I think is much higher than what the experts have. Yeah, so right now, even the most optimistic experts only have him as wide receiver 18. So this is how you can use sort of everyone else's rankings, the meta rankings, to determine how you can use that to strategize your own draft. Finally, the last piece of advice is that particularly if you're drafting at a time of uncertainty, like today, Labor Day, the 2nd of September, we still don't really know what's going on with Zeke's contract and Melvin Gordon's contract, and this can have a pretty big impact on who starts at that position. And running back is all about opportunity, really. So in terms of Zeke, it looks like he's going to miss maybe 1 or 2 games, which opens the door for his backup Tony Pollard to start. And as we saw with Le'Veon Bell last year, once James Conner just took the reins and the drop off didn't look too bad, it kind of just spiraled out of control. So there's sort of that risk with Zeke here, but it looks like I'd say I'm pretty optimistic that Zeke will be back at some point, but he'll probably miss maybe the start of the season. In terms of Melvin Gordon, I'm really worried about Melvin Gordon. It looks like he's not going to be with the Chargers. He doesn't want to be there, and they're looking to trade him. If you look at the latest news, I think he was on Twitter trying to follow other teams like the Raiders and 49ers. This just reminds me of the whole Antonio Brown thing where, players are trying to dictate where they go. But if he ends up on the Raiders or 49ers, I don't know, there's the whole adjustment period, and he hasn't, exactly been at training camp, and that increases the risk of injury. So overall, I'm just not trying to avoid Melvin Gordon where I can, but I'm also trying to target the new starters on the Chargers, Austin Eckler and Justin Jackson, who I think both are very underrated right now. And then there's some other cool things you can just see in terms of what's happening on the news. For example, Adam Schefter tweeted out earlier today that N'Keal Harry is going on IR, expected to return later this season. So going back to my first point, knowing how to take advantage of certain players like that going on IR is important. And also, it opens up the door for the other Patriots wide receivers, for example, Josh Gordon, sort of that similar skill set as a big wide receiver for Brady to target in the end zone. Someone's got to step up to replace Gronk, and it's looking more and more like that's going to be Josh Gordon. So, yeah, overall, I'm pretty high on Josh Gordon along with some other players. If you want to see my full rankings, I'll leave a link in the description below. But yeah, thanks for watching. If you found this helpful or learned something, feel free to leave a like, or if you didn't like it or didn't learn anything, feel free to leave a dislike. As always, feel free to share any comments or thoughts you may have, and I hope to see you guys soon. Bye bye.